Hello viewers, let me quickly introduce myself before proceeding with the training videos for PMI ACP. I am Vinayak Agarwal. I am a PMP, PMI ACP and an ITIL certified IT professional with an experience of more than a decade now in the field of business analysis, project management and agile methodologies. In this session, that is module number 8, I will be cultivating you with the value-based prioritization and value mapping. A rapid briefing of the topics which I will be covering today for you are Agile core values, Agile manifesto values, revenue sources, payback period. We will quickly talk about NPV, IRR, ROI. Then we will move ahead with value driven delivery, the 8 wastes in lean, product backlog. Then we will talk about VSM, that is value stream mapping, followed by value stream mapping steps. Then we will talk about value proposition, the McKinsey 7S model, relative prioritization, Moscow prioritization, Kano analysis, 100-point method, monopoly money, and finally we will end the session with MMF, that is minimal marketable features.
So before talking about the agile prioritization, let's talk about the agile core values first. Though we have discussed these values earlier in earlier modules also, but it would be a good approach to start with the values first. So as you all know, agile core values are focus on business value. That is, agile is more focused on the business value rather than the documentation and other stuffs. Similarly, collaboration is another parameter. Simplicity in terms of all the tasks you do. Feedback, which is kind of a mechanism to exchange ideas and views and learning from the mistakes. The next one is quality in everything we do. Commitment, definitely commitment is the prime dimension for agile. And visibility, for which you have the burn down charts, your information radiators and stuff, so as to have the information is visible to each and every member of the agile. So these are the agile core values. Let's give a quick look to the agile manifestos again. So agile have 4 prime manifestos. One is individuals and interactions over process and tools. So agile focuses more on individuals and interactions, though it is not saying that don't follow the process and tools, but definitely individuals and interactions are having a more magnitude or weightage when you talk in relate to the process and tools. So individual and interactions over process and tools. Just remember, left hand side have the more weightage in terms of agile rather than the right side ones. So again, second one is working software over the comprehensive documentation. Agile is more focusing towards the working software. The health of the project or the release or the software or the product is directly related to the condition of the software. So is it working or not? Rather than are the documentations complete or not? So working software over comprehensive documentation. The third one is customer collaboration over customer negotiation. We involve the customer in every phase. So it's a collaborative approach rather than a negotiation. So customer collaboration is more important, though customer negotiation is also important in some phases of the project, but agile focuses more on customer collaboration. And the last one is responding to change, as we have an agility, definitely. So we respond to change in a positive side. So responding to change rather than following a plan. So agile don't have a strict project plan. Just like in the traditional methodologies, we have a project plan at the start of the project and we keep on revisiting or kind of revising the project plan as we go through the other phases of the project. But in agile, we don't create a project plan. We definitely have a project plan, but it's a kind of a skeleton view. Very brief, or you can say iteration specific. So we have an agile project plan at the iteration level. So once the iteration 1 is completed, then only we can say the project plan is complete for the iteration 1 only. But still, the project is counted as a whole. So we can never say that the project plan is completed. It is a kind of an enhancement to the project plan every time we proceed in the iterations or the releases. So responding to change is the prime responsibility rather than following a plan. So we don't have any plan. We just create the plan as on when it is deemed. Before talking, let's talk about the revenue sources. So possible sources of revenue from a project or from any of the industry could be new revenue or kind of an incremental revenue. So we have four broad categories: new revenue, incremental revenue, retained revenue, and operational efficiencies revenue. So by term new revenue, whenever there is a new project, definitely it's the new source of revenue, so it's a new revenue. Incremental revenue, you already have a project, but you kind of have an additional enhancement or a new modules separately, so they might have an extra income. So this is an incremental revenue. You had a product, but a kind of a licenses, more modules, components, a separate, you can say, add-ons is the source of incremental revenue. Retained revenue, it's a kind of a retention, just like the organizations nowadays paying their employees the retention bonus so as to maintain job continuity for 1 year or 2 years or 6 months. So kind of a retention. So retained revenue. And the final one is the operational efficiencies revenue. So any time sensitive processes which reduces the work, actually improves your accuracy, is kind of a which definitely adds on to your revenue, but that is neither a new revenue nor an incremental. It's kind of an operational efficiency. So a revenue which you generated from your efficiencies in your processes or operations or your day-to-day project activities. Next in the queue, we have a payback period. So payback period is a capital budgeting term which refers to the period of time. It refers to the period of time, not any percentage, not number. It's a period of time required to recoup the funds expended in an investment or to reach the break-even point or the point at which the total investment is equal to the cash inflow, you can say. So for example, you have invested suppose $1,000 and the return period for this $1,000 is 500 per year. So you can say in 2 years you will get your $100 back. So 2 years is your payback period. So being a manager or being into the pre-sales or the sales involvement, so a manager should keep in mind that the payback period should be, that is the total investment you do, the less is the payback period, the best is the project, in short. So cash inflow, that is your net profit, should equate with the total investment. So shorter payback periods are preferable to longer payback periods. And payback period is popular due to its ease of use despite the recognized limitation described here. And also do remember that it is not considering that money, that is the value of money is not taken into account while calculating the payback period. It's just the period. So in mathematical notation, payback period is equals to total investment divided by your cash inflow, which is equals to your net profit. Next, we have the NPV, which is net present value. So net present value is a method used in evaluating investments, whereby the net present value of all cash flows, such as the cost of the investment and other cash flows returns, is calculated. So in mathematical, you can say NPV is equals to initial investment plus the cash flow per year divided by the rate of interest, and it's a cumulative one. So at the end of the project, starting from the T1, time 1 till the end of the project. Though these concepts are not very important in terms of agile examination, agile project management examination, but definitely it would help to understand the mechanics behind the financial or the project terms in a much better way. These terms are more important for your PMP examination, not exactly for the agile, because agile is not more specific towards the financial side. So quickly look to the other two financial terms. One is IRR, which is internal rate of return, which is also known as the dollar weightage value of return, and it is measured how quickly the investment in the project will increase in value. So kind of rate of return. And similarly, we have the next term, which is return on investment. You might be quite popular, it's a term, ROI. So return on investment is a profitability measure that evaluates the performance of the business. So if you see the image below, so you invested some costs, and out of that you have some benefits. So you invest something and you will get something in return. So the difference between these two is the ROI, that is the worth. Finally, what you have achieved or what you have gained is the return on investment. Suppose you have invested $100, but in return you are getting only 800, so your ROI is minus 200. You are not getting, in fact you are in loss. So this is the return on investment. Next, coming the value driven delivery, which is the prime objective of this module. In Agile, as the term is very clear, value driven delivery. So in Agile, the driving factor for a delivery is the value. By value, I mean to say the business value of that particular component or the user story or the product. So products are undertaken to generate business value. That is, to produce a benefit or to improve a service. And it's in a first in, last out type. So eat your dessert first. So the one at the top is the most important in terms of delivery. That has the highest value in terms of weightage, or you can say the in terms of business value. So agile methods promote early value delivery, as you know. So this means the team aims to deliver the highest value portion of the project as early as possible. And there are some key reasons for this approach, like short, weird stuff happen, and the longer a project runs, the longer the horizon becomes, and similarly the risks and the failure chances are definitely shooted out and reduce benefits, erosion of opportunities, and so on. So just to maximize success, we should aim to deliver as many high value components as early as possible. So because it's a world of change, things can change at any point. So deliver high value item first. So value driven delivery. You drive a delivery in terms of business value. Moving further, we have a slide in which we will talk about the 8 wastes. So these 8 wastes come from the lean industry, so the lean manufacturing. And from lean or Kanban, you can say few questions in your examination. So lean primarily talk about the 8 wastes. And these 8 wastes are defects, overproduction, waiting, non-utilized talent, transportation, inventory, motion, extra processing. So just to remember these 8 wastes, there is an acronym, downtime. You can remember simply by downtime. So D stands for defects, where defects is effort caused by the rework, scrap, or incorrect information. O is for overproduction, that is the production that is more than needed or before it is needed. W is for waiting, that is the time spent in waiting for any next step or a process. N is non-utilized talent, that is you can see the people, talent, skills, or knowledge are not being utilized, though it has to be. T is transportation, that is the unnecessary movements of the products or the materials or the processes or the steps. Then inventory, which is excess products and materials which are not being processed. M for motion, which relates to the unnecessary movements of people. Example, walking, or we will discuss few example in the later slide, so you can understand the motion waste more accurately. Extra processing, that is the higher quality that is required by the customer, more work. So this is extra processing, a kind of a gold plating. So these are the 8 wastes. So waste is any step or action in a process that is not required to complete the process, a kind of a non-value addition to the delivery. Next, we have the product backlog. You will for surely get many questions in your examination related to the product backlog because it holds a special uh, term in the Agile framework. So as we have already discussed product backlog earlier, so product backlog is the list of all the deliveries, or you can say the requirements or the user stories or the business values. And we create this product owner is the prime responsible for the product backlog, but team also have a equally right to move the components up and down, definitely in discussion with the product owner only. So items at the top in the product backlog should be worked first, and definitely the lower ones are at the lowest priority. So if you see, to define a good product backlog, keep in mind that there are 4 prime characteristics which can be remembered with the acronym DEEP, and DEEP stands for detailed appropriately. So your product backlog should be detailed appropriately, it should be emergent, it should be estimatable, and it should be prioritizable. So these are the prime characteristics for a good product backlog. So a product backlog which fulfills all these 4 dimensions, detailed appropriately, emergent, estimatable, and prioritizable, we can say that it is a good product backlog. So if you see the third image in the block image, the top prime highest items are marked in the release 1, and based on their prioritization, you can segregate them into the release 2 and the release 3. So release 1 is the first one, release 2 is the second, and release 3 is the so on. And so on, you can split your items depending on their prioritization to release on release. The next one is again an important topic for Agile, which is value stream mapping, VSM. So again, it derives from the lean manufacturing technique. So to understand this concept, let's look an example. And before that, just keep in mind there are 2 terms. One is value add activities and another is non-value add activities. So by value add activities, it means the activities which are adding value to your delivery. So they are really important, or you can say you can't ignore them. And the second one, which are not important, are the non-value add. So there are few processes which are non-value addition. Definitely, you can relate it to any of your project to do some task. There are few value addition activities and some are non-value addition activities. So let's look an example. Suppose you want to eat a cake with your friend. So the steps required are definitely then you have a cake selection, then you have a bakery counter, you go to the bakery counter, you do the payments, unpack the slice, and you have the cake with your friend. So if you drill down this process further, you can see that value addition, you are the points where you are actually doing the work. So cake selection is a value addition. Bakery counter with the baker, definitely it's a value addition. Payments is important. Definitely you won't get a cake if you don't pay. So payment is again a value addition. And unpack the slice is value addition, and finally having the cake is value addition. But the non-value addition times are selection of a cake. You go to the bakery counter, so you spend time on walking or driving. So that's 4 minutes. If in this example is a non-value addition. So going to the payments counter again is a non-value addition. Similarly, unpacking is a non-value. And so if you can see in this example, value adds 1 minute, you do the cake selection, which is a value add. Then 4 minutes, non-value add time from cake selection to the bakery counter. 2 minutes actually bakers, that is a value add. 6 minutes again non-value, which you do from bakers to the payment counter. 2 minutes the actual payments, which is a value addition. 15 minutes non-value. 2 minutes unpack the slice, value addition. 5 minutes non-value, and 5 minutes finally having the cake. So to to calculate the process cycle efficiency, the formula is total value add time. That is the total value add time divided by the total cycle time. So here and remember, cycle time is the total time which includes the value add plus the non-value add. So process cycle efficiency would be total value add time, which in this case is 12 minutes. 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 5 is equals to 12 is the value add time, and the non-value add time is 4 plus 6 plus 15 plus 5 plus the value add, total makes 42. So 30 plus 12 is 42. So process cycle efficiency would be 12 minutes divided by 42 minutes. 12 minutes is the value add and 42 minutes is the total, which includes the value add plus the non-value add time. So we can say that 29% is the only efficiency for this process. So this is how you calculate the value stream mapping. Probably you can get 1 or 2 questions related to this. So either the exam will demand you to calculate the total cycle time or the efficiency. So by this we can conclude that it helps us to determine the elements of waste that could be removed or improved. Moving on to the next slide, we have value stream mapping steps. So again, the same in a better way. So we have few steps when we do the value stream mapping. So identify the product or service that you are analyzing is the first one. Then we create the current process, identify steps, queues, delays and information flows. Then review the map to find delays, waste and constraints. Then you finally create a new value stream map based on the removal of the wastes, or you can say the optimization or the removal of the reduced delays, waste or constraint. Then you develop a roadmap for creating the optimized state, and finally you replan, kind of a revisit the process to normalize or optimize it further. So current state, then future state, and then next future state, which is the optimal stage. So value proposition canvas, if you can see, we have value proposition in which we have a product and relate to that we have a customer. So product have a benefits or a features, and customer will have an experience to that product based on customer wants, needs and fears, so desires you can say. Next slide, we have the McKinsey 7S model. So McKinsey is an organization which keep on surveys, does the new methodologies and bring new models to the framework for better efficiencies in the organization. So for value stream mapping is the most often used as an organizational analysis tool to assess and monitor changes. So for that, McKinsey have created a framework which talks about the 7S. And those 7S are shared values, style, strategy, structure, staff, skills, and system. So you can relate it. Shared values because of missions and goals, a kind of a vision. Style, that is the cultural or the leadership style. Then the strategy, corporate or the business product market, how your organization is governed. Structure, virtual organizations, hierarchies. Staff is the real empowerment. Skills is the competencies and knowledge. System is the final processes. So you have the shared goals at the top, then comes the strategy. Skills, which are relate with the people, process, culture and roles and responsibility. So you can relate with the staff, system, structure and style. Next topic is the relative prioritization. Since while creating a good product backlog, a prioritization is important. So Agile have a framework for deciding if and when to incorporate changes or not. So based on your user story or the component or the requirement, you plot a prioritization metric. On the x-axis we have the urgency and on y-axis we have the impact. So you can see all the L1s have the lowest impact and urgency, M are the medium ones, and high are the high priority ones. So definitely your product backlog should contain H at the top, mediums at the middle one, and the lowest at the lowest level in the product backlog. So when change is requested, the team can ask the business representative what items are more important. So you can decide your release or the iteration based on the relative prioritization or the prioritization matrix. Again, we have a term for prioritization. A good characteristic, or you can say, you can split the prioritized either from the relative prioritization matrix, priority based, or the Moscow analysis, or you can say the Moscow prioritization, where M stands for the must have, S stands for should have, C could have, and won't have this time for W. So must have, that is the Moscow, must have, should, these are the requirements or the components or the user stories that are more a must for your product backlog. So without this, the release or the product is a failure. Then we have the should have, then could have, and the final fourth one you can ignore for timing depending on the discussion with the product owner. So won't have this time. You can definitely have this in the next release also. So must have, should have, and could have. So your product backlog, the top items are the must have, below ones are the should have, and the lowest one are the could have ones. Next important topic is the Kano analysis. From Kano analysis, one can identify the customer excitement level, whether they are dissatisfied or satisfied, and based on that you can apply the approach, the methodology. So classify customer preference into one of four categories. One is exciters, then satisfiers, then dissatisfiers, and indifferent. So suppose for a product A, you have four features, 1, 2, 3, 4. So feature 1 is an exciter. Without this, your customer won't be happy. And suppose feature 2 is a satisfier one. So brings value to the customer. 3, suppose feature 3 is a dissatisfier, will cause the user to dislike the product if they are not there. So their presence doesn't excite or satisfy the customer, but their absence is definitely dissatisfying your customer. And finally, the indifferent, the 4 feature. So do not have any impact on the customer. It's a kind of an waste to the customer. Your tendency in a product is to, or your product backlog is to make that your customers are at the highest level of exciters, satisfier, and dissatisfiers, and try to be indifferent. So this is kind of a Kano analysis. The next is the 100-point method. Again, it is a prioritization tool. So the 100-point method is a prioritization method that can be used to prioritize items in a group environment. So suppose you have 100 points with you. You have a brainstorming team of 3 to 4 candidates or maybe more. So each person within a group is given 100 points, which they can distribute or vote across the available items. So suppose a product have 4 features, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's on an individual how he splits it 100 points to those 4 features. So what he thinks, maybe he can give 25 points to each 4 features, or maybe he is giving 80 points to one feature and rest 10 or 5 to the rest of the 3 features. So it's a 100-point method. You have to split your 100 points depending on the weightage, how you feel that this feature is important in terms of magnitude. So the votes do not need to be redistributed equally. Rather, a weightage distribution can be used to reflect the higher priority that some items warrant. So you don't have to distribute these 100 points equally. it's up to you. If you want to give 100 points to one requirement, you can give it directly to the 100 points to the one requirement. So this is what is the 100-point method. Based on this, you can prioritize your features so that the features which have the highest number of points are the first one to deliver, or are the most important, or they are the most one which excites or satisfies the customer to the maximum extent. Similarly, just like the 100-point method, it's the monopoly money method, in which you segregate the features based on their monetary value. So, suppose you think that the feature 1 in a product contains 20 million bucks. So that is the more important one, and rest one are suppose 2 million, 5 million, or 0.3 million. So definitely based on the money distribution, you categorize your product or features. Next we have the MMF, though we have already discussed in our earlier module, but just to refresh you. So MMF stands for the minimum marketable feature. So it is the smallest piece of functionality that can be delivered that has value to both the organization delivering it and the people using it. So the features which are giving maximum benefit to the customer with the smallest piece of functionality are the minimum marketable feature. So in your prioritized feature list or the product backlog, minimal marketable product features or the product should categorize at the top. So it has three characteristics or attributes, that is minimum, marketable, and feature. A release is a collection of MMFs that can be delivered together within the specific time frame. So that's all I have in my queue for today. Thank you very much guys for your time. Have a good luck. Bye bye.